opportunity, I'm your friendly neighborhood Rasta, by the way, right? I had the unique opportunity to have conversations with some Japanese friends and friends from continental Africa. And, you know, I have a brethren, that's a friend of mine, and he was saying that, you know, like he was with this girl and then talking about his multiple relations with women. So I was like, boy, me know you like all of that bacchanal. And then the Japanese girl was like, I didn't know you spoke Swahili. Right? So I was like, okay, well, I'll be a little bit more cautious in the speed, right, than which I speak in. So we have puppets, we have village life, we have sexual relations in the Caribbean. Now, can we discuss popular culture, masculinities, feminism in the Caribbean? I think yes. From our analysis of the Santana series, we pose the following questions. Does gender stand alone as a category for critical attention when deconstructing Caribbean masculinities? Do differences in ethnicity inform different notions of masculinity and patriarchal power? If yes, how? Do themes of sexual violence, domestic abuse, and dominance make the Santana series more complex than an entertaining puppet show? Roger Alexis' career leading up to the creation of the Santana series reflects a combination of youthful experimentation and deep-rootedness in the cultural experience of Trinidad and Tobago. Given the nature of the platform where the Santana series was uploaded, there was no interference of local telecommunication regulations and commercial interference in the creative process in its initial stages. Then through the widespread sharing of Facebook, the web series became a major hit. Actually, Santana series came out of a class assignment because Roger Alexis is a film student at the UWI campus at St. Augustine. And literally in an interview he said, one day I went on Facebook and everybody said Santana is the funniest thing. That it went viral, but he did the assignment a long time before. This paper is limited to the analysis of the YouTube channel Roger 43 Santana series as it relates to notions of masculinity. Furthermore, it does not explore the audience feedback of the Santana show, which I think is a very valuable analysis. I argue within a framework of entertainment, patriarchy, sexual violence against women, discourse of power and dominance, all find their voices in puppets with Trinidad and Tobago accents in a web series. Why so serious? Nanton cites Lawrence Brainer's investigation on seriousness in Caribbean literature, which carries legitimizing power and notions of respectability for the writer. Nanton challenges the official culture established by the literary critical tradition that specifies particular themes and writers who engage in seriousness and profundity in literature. So issues of race, class, gender, right, these heavy categories which a lot of the time frame our Caribbean writing, that are serious topics in which we render respect to the writer for those who write biographies on them or critical reviews on their work. Notably, we'll have Derek Walcott and V.S. Naipaul, just to name two males. In his case study essay, Shane Keen's Nonsense, an alternative approach to Caribbean folk culture, he makes an effort to celebrate the unofficial and de-emphasize the seriousness on criticism. Therefore, in this line of thought, we suggest that the Santana series adds to the field of Caribbean literature and culture. Similarly, as it relates to puppet theater, the consistency of the literary conceptual script has led The Muppet Show, Kermit the Frog et al., to mainstream success and critical acclaim. Evident in the script of the show is a traditional Anglo-American literary tradition, the production of nonsense. This literary construct is a response to the rigid notions of rationality, order, and logic, which have permeated Western thought and academia, best represented as the age of reason. It is without doubt that the platform upon which Santana was made available to the public had a part to play in its eventual success. YouTube has created a new space for amateur filmmakers like Roger Alexis to share their work with a worldwide audience. Therefore, reducing traditionally restricted areas of the profession. What is most interesting about this high-quality production is that the series warrants further studies on topics such as aesthetics, issues of representation, language, and the framing of what we recently adopted, multiculturalism in Trinidad and Tobago. All these bodies, masculine bodies. Santana's hyper-masculinity and exaggerated ego makes him the focal point of humor in this show. Through the character, Patsy, Narayan's partner, his intimate partner, may be interpreted as the producer's attempt to highlight domestic violence against men. As you saw in the clip, Narayan was slapped by Patsy. If you didn't recognize Narayan, Narayan is the caricature of an Indian, right, in the narrative. Indo-Trinidadian, sorry. On the contrary, a deeper look into what the script suggests, the cultural signifiers of Narayan through his name and voice indicate he is of East Indian descent. The ethnic stereotype of Indo-Trinidadian male sexuality is in action, relegating Narayan to sexual impotence and powerlessness in relations with his partner. In the episode Patsy, Narayan follows the example of Santana and demands Patsy to cook for him, and she responds angrily. He then proceeds to mash up the house, right, which is to throw items all around, right. Narayan slaps Patsy as he had seen earlier by Santana to Janice, and forces himself onto Patsy's breast. In shock, Patsy fights back and threatens physically weaken Narayan to the point where he cries out to her, begging for her mercy. Paradoxically, Santana looks out his window and states, "Janice, look, Narayan beating his wife again. Some fellas really don't know how to treat a woman." When themes of male violence, sexual prowess, and dominance are performed, Santana is a star performer of such roles. However, on the surface, it may appear that the character Patsy represents a subversion of the authoritarian male in the home. This is in fact less of a subversion of the dominant patriarchal power relations, but more of an ethnic stereotype of the Indo-Trinidadian male through the portrayal of the masculine performance by Narayan, or more accurately, the emasculation of Narayan. Patricia Mohammed identifies three patriarchal systems that existed and contested each other at the same time in Trinidad in 1917. We had white patriarchy, we had Creole patriarchy, which was constructed by Afros in the country as well as mixed persons, and we had Indian patriarchy. She argues that Indian men were subordinated to the bottom of the hierarchy of these patriarchal structures as it relates to the political, economic, and social capital. Therefore, one must take into consideration of the different ways masculinity is constructed by various ethnic groups. As seen in the script of Santana's series, we are exposed to an Afro-Caribbean view of Indo-Caribbean masculinity. Sexual violence. Violence against women in the Caribbean is a major social issue we are grappling with that has its roots in structures and institutions of oppression that were expressed and experienced in colonialism. Interestingly, Roger Alexis, the director, right, puts forward in an interview that Santana, the character, is loosely framed in the memory of his father. Also, he puts forward that Santana is a typical Trini. This does not depart from the idea that Caribbean African male masculinity has been historically constructed with violence as part of their masculine values, according to Beckles. A deconstruction of the episode The Fete would reveal the theme of male violence and the objectification of females, in this case Janice, by Santana. It's actually interesting because for those, and it's not exclusive to Trinidad and Tobago, those who know how some men and women relate in a party environment in Trinidad may have some, I hope it didn't happen in your life, but you may have some understanding, right, of these scenes. Santana questions why Janice allows other men to dance with her and threatens her with physical violence. Janice then tells him that they are not in a formal relationship. She said, "You's not my man." Santana replies, "I buy a beer for your girl." He bought an alcoholic beverage for her. I's your man. Thus claiming ownership because he bought her a drink. Yeah, petty things like that happen, right, where we come from. And I think may happen. Okay, 5 minutes. Janice remarks, you ain't buy the drink yourself. And she requests a Baileys. Santana agrees and warns if he see her dance with someone else, it go have real bacchanal, a violent retort in the context. And he returns saying that Bam Bam is mine, further objectifying Janice and his refusal, reinforcing his refusal to participate in dancing. He inadvertently drops the drink and begins a fight with someone dancing with Janice and repeats, I go beat a real bad girl, I find you like too much man. Violence against women is not a minor issue. It has been reported that 12,106 domestic violence applications were filed to Trinidad and Tobago magistrate courts between 2009 to 2010. In my last slide, sexual prowess as payload or power. In the episode, Patsy, Santana asks Janice for payload. Payload is a dish we have with rice and peas, and begins throwing items out of the house because she said she felt that she was too tired to cook. The couple begins to argue and Janice launches verbal insults and challenges his sexual prowess. Santana slaps her. Hush your mouth. Hush your damn mouth. Begetting her silence, and unceremoniously they begin to have sexual intercourse. Then she agrees to cook the pilau for Santana. Apart from constructing an age-old fantasy of the hegemonic man who physically abuses his wife or female partner in order to have his needs satisfied, while it is assumed that the woman enjoys this act, Janice is rendered as a not-too-bright girl who carries a torch for Santana in spite of the threats against her life and persistent danger in which she lives within the sexist relationship in which she is involved. The double entente metaphor of eat a food, which is very familiar to persons in Trinidad and Tobago, sexually and literally, the plate of pilau is a connection and can be rarely made within the cultural imagination of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. While this may highlight the real abuse endured by women in relationships, which are then trivialized by other mundane activities, such as eating, into how gender relations are interpreted there. In conclusion, I had many discussions with some colleagues before I came here. I'm actually had conversations with Roger Alexis himself, arguing that the Santana show is inherently sexist through its enactment of an androcentric lens performed mainly by the protagonist Santana. One may be interpreted as you're taking this a little bit too seriously. It's just puppets. Unfortunately, underneath the clever and creative show and persistent themes of male violence, there are persistent themes of male violence, patriarchal attitudes, and rigid notions of masculinity that are harmful to women and, of course, men. Thank you very much.